CPF's Field Services Director. California Preservation Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit committed to ensuring that the rich diversity of California's historic resources and historic heritage are identified, protected, and celebrated for their history and their valuable role in California's economy, environment, and quality of life. Our work is made possible by the generous support of members, donors, and sponsors like yourselves. We invite you to join our preservation community if you're not already a member by going to californiapreservation.org/membership. And on that website, you can also find information on future programs and events. For today's webinar, we are joined by muralist Richard Muro Salazar and Rebeca García-González, who will discuss their experience with and the importance of murals in public art. They'll share their hands-on experience with community-led mural conservation, examples of how these groups have successfully saved local murals from destruction, and how these murals preserve the history and heritage of California's unique communities. Today's program will be moderated by two members of our education committee, Erica Schultz, founder of Forget Me Not History, and Annabelle Lee Enriquez, project specialist at the Getty Conservation Institute. We appreciate your taking the time to join us for today's program. If at any time during the program you have questions for the speakers, we encourage you to put them in the Q&A, which can be found at the bottom of your Zoom window. We've set aside time at the end of the program for questions, and we'll do our best to get to everyone's in the time allotted. Again, our work is made possible by your generous support. And with that, I will turn it over to Erica and Annabelle to get today's program underway.
Thanks, Lisa, and thank you all for joining us today for this engaging discussion on mural preservation and community activism. Annabelle and I have been planning a longer seminar on the documentation of murals for CPF, which we're aiming to host later this spring. And when we began planning this seminar, we initially focused on technical aspects of this topic, such as regulatory frameworks, including documenting murals for designation as historic resources at the local, state, and national level, or for inclusion in municipal mural registration programs. And we've also been looking at new technologies that can both document and promote murals. However, we soon realized that the heart and soul of mural documentation are the muralists themselves. They are talented artists, community organizers, public historians, and preservationists who are at the forefront for advocating for public murals in their communities. And that's why, as a precursor to the mural documentation seminar, we are delighted to feature the work of Rebeca García-González and Richard Muro Salazar, who are both accomplished artists and muralists based in the city of Richmond. And for those of you who might not be familiar with the San Francisco Bay Area, Richmond is located on the San Francisco Bay waterfront in the East Bay. I'd like to briefly introduce Rebeca and Richard and then turn it over to them as they highlight their work to restore existing murals and paint new murals that document and celebrate the diverse history and communities of the city of Richmond. And there will, as Lisa said, there will be time at the end for your questions with these two artists. Rebeca García-González is a longtime resident and advocate who focuses her work on social justice themes, East Bay landscapes, and in portraits of individuals in Richmond and her native Puerto Rico. She is an award-winning artist, and you can see her work in person at an upcoming Point Malate exhibit at the Richmond Art Center, where her landscapes will be on display from January 24th to March 16th. Rebeca will discuss her collaborative work over the last several years with various communities on public art projects with social justice themes, including the restoration and painting of new murals on McDonald and San Pablo Avenues. Richard Muro Salazar is a Bay Area born and raised muralist and custom fabricator who has been practicing his artistic passions for over 30 years. Raised in Richmond, he naturally grew a love for his community, which fueled his journey to become involved in social justice and activism through his works of art. He is currently working with youth as an educator of multiple art mediums, helping to empower the next generation of socially conscious community artists. Richard will discuss his experience in activism through his work on the Greenway, a community-led reuse project transforming former railroad corridors into a public mixed modal trail. And with that, I'll hand it over to Rebeca. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I want to thank the California Preservation Foundation for having us, and I'm really excited to be here, and I'm going to get started. Richard's right next to me, so you guys are in for a treat. I want to tell you a little bit about my preparation. I came to mural making a little bit accidentally. My preparation is as a fine artist, and it wasn't until college that I became acquainted with the power of muralism and specifically murals that can deliver messages about social justice. When I was in Puerto Rico, I went to the Art Students League of San Juan.
Recording in progress.
And then to the University of Puerto Rico, where I studied fine art. And so I didn't realize it at the time, but the artists I was in touch with were artists who practiced art as a social practice. And they were very political, and they were the ones who modeled what art could do for social movements. So those were the models I had. And when I came here very young at the age of 23, I was looking for communities where that would be the case. And not surprisingly, I came to live in San Francisco and eventually to Richmond, where I've felt very happy for the past 15 years. Richmond reminded me a lot of Puerto Rico. First of all, it has a deep appreciation for fine arts and public art in particular. It has a very active, politically active city government and many, many community groups. So not surprisingly, I ended up making, in the last few years, about 8 murals, some with the Watershed Project, the Police Activities League, Workforce Development, and you can see a few of them in these few next slides. Groundwork Richmond was another organization, and what they have in common is that they employ youth as the makers of the murals. So what I tell people when they come to me for a mural is I only work with youth. They are the generators of the ideas behind the murals. It looks a lot like a mural class in that everybody gets to paint. And I work with them in very much the way a consultant would work. I am a facilitator of their discussions. I take down their ideas and I look at I give them sketches and models to work with, and they make changes, and then we move on to the painting of the mural. So I don't know if we can see the other murals that I have a few, not all of them, but a few of the more recent ones. Here's the Pullman mural. This is a pocket park that is very close to the Richmond Greenway, a large space that was greened by a coalition of nonprofits and that historically has been at the forefront of social movements in this city because turning it into a park was not a very easy task, and it required quite a bit of activism that dates back to the 60s and 70s. But I'm not going to talk a lot about that today. I just wanted to mention that I'm very proud to have a mural in that area. We can see the next slide, sorry. This is also located at Unity Park on the Greenway. And again, another mural painted by mostly youth. And maybe there's one more slide. This is a mural I'm going to talk about in more detail because it underwent a restoration process. This is a mural called Richmond Dances and Grows, and it's also located at Unity Park on 16th and Ohio. It is 80 feet long and 8 feet tall. So I'll go back to it later. Well, oh yes, and this is an indoor mural I did recently at the Richmond Art Center. It was done on polyester, which was adhered to the wall. And it is not as large and is located at one of their entrances. So I call it a welcome mural and also a family mural because it shows all of the stakeholders in the institution. So we can go on to the next session. where I'm going to talk a little bit about how is it different to make murals here from my point of view as an artist. Like I mentioned, Richmond has a tradition of supporting public art that dates back to the 1930s with an active city council establishing some long-lived institutions, for example, the Richmond Arts Center, performing arts organizations, and so forth. And but Richmond really hasn't had a lot of funding for public art. I don't think Richmond is as affluent a city of other cities in the area. And for example, its Public Art Commission was established in the mid-1990s, so relatively recently. Right now, the city has received some funding from the 1% fund, which is, some of you are probably familiar with it, where businesses give 1% of their funding to devote it to public art and also are able to commission public art pieces. So with that fund, things are improving for artists in the area. And the city also has a program called Neighborhood Public Art Grants, where they give small grants, right now no larger than $9,000 for murals. The East Bay Community Foundation and the California Arts Council, they have all contributed to public art made here in Richmond. But we still have a way to go in terms of making things a little bit easier. It usually still falls on the artist to put together these sources of funding and get all the pieces in place to be able to make a mural that's perhaps larger than 50 feet by 8 feet. So anything larger than that usually requires multiple sources of funding and quite a bit of coordination. We can see the next slides. So what you're looking at is some of the stages of the building of the Pullman mural in a Pullman neighborhood. The wall itself required another source of funding, which the organization went and got last minute. We tried to get it funded in various ways and failed, but the nonprofit Groundwork Richmond pulled together resources and got it funded. We can see the next slide. And so you can see the high school students priming the wall. They built the wall themselves under direction of the organization. And I was there. I designed the construction of the wall together with the students. So I was involved from the very, very beginning. We got the right plywood, the right primer. We created a structure that was lasting but low budget, and we moved on to the painting. We can see the next slide. Here, this is the Unity Park mural, Richmond Dances and Grows, and we see youth from another organization at the very last stage of the mural creation, which is varnishing. This is before the opening of the park, so they had to get special permission. I just wanted to give you some visuals of how it looks. We can see the next slide, please. Thank you. But I would say in a city like ours, I feel that we can always do more education with business owners. And I think the city is very well informed about how to preserve public artworks here. Even if our budget isn't as large as other cities, I think there's a lot of awareness on how to keep the murals going after a few years. But where I think we can do better, all of us, is to inform businesses of some best practices in mural preservation. This mural was painted by youth when I was directing a community arts program, so I know the artists closely. They were Federico Alvarado and Alex Wang, and they painted it with 50 high school students, just a large group of kids. Unfortunately, they built a door and a window right into the mural shortly after because the building is a business location, and we didn't know until it happened. So we can see the next slide, please. Thank you. This is a close-up of the window. I was so shocked when I saw that, and there could have been some workarounds. We can see the next slide because I don't want to take too much time on this. There's been some small mural efforts that have happened through like the Bay Area Mural Festival and small nonprofit organizations. And to me, they are some of the more dynamic examples of public art through community movements. Here is a mural that happened very spontaneously. The group was put together at the last minute, and it was painted on a business building. And it got painted over, and nobody received any notice. One day it was there, the next day it was gone. We could see the next slide. I even gave tours of the mural because it was a mural about housing rights. And here I am with the radical monarchs who were very interested in the mural itself and asked me a lot of questions. And I'm sad to say it's gone. Next slide, sorry. Thank you. Here's another example where a private company placed their sign and didn't consult the business or the artists, and it couldn't be removed. So maybe we can see the next slide, please. Here's a close-up right over the credits of the artist. So that's not a good thing because many of us depend on people locating us for future services. So if they can't see our name and our website and who made it, well, that's bad news. But there's better things on the horizon. So let's move on to something that I know you're interested in, murals as a record of public history. Here's a slide that shows the construction site, and that's important because when we were going to paint the Unity Park mural, the first one, Richmond Dances and Grows, we were told that we couldn't be in an active construction site, so they didn't let us be there when the wall was being constructed because it would be a liability issue, they said. So a subcontractor built the wall and they built it incorrectly. They bought the wrong plywood. They said they were going to get marine grade plywood, but they did not. It was a cheaper plywood, which they covered with polyester resin, better known as Bondo. So they covered large areas of that plywood with Bondo, and then they primed it so that when we arrived and saw the wall, we couldn't tell that that resin had been applied. They also placed the panels not vertically but horizontally, and that we did notice, but we were told that it couldn't be redone because it was a very complicated, convoluted process, and we were under a very close deadline. So we painted the mural, and we can see the next slides. Thank you. And here's the completed mural, which shows a process, the process that took place during the greening, what we call the greening of the Greenway, from a dump where people left their trash to gardens, and finally a park where there's a community celebration with some of the original activists from the cities and 70s participating. So that was the concept, and it was a beautiful mural that began peeling the year after when it rained. Could you please forward? We also, and the next slide, please. This is the water damage caused by water seeping through seams that were siliconed, but the back of the mural is exposed to the rain. So every time it rains, the water comes out through the seams. The first restoration consisted of us scraping all of the bondo off, repriming and repainting. And I had to write a proposal and get some community artists hired to help me because there was too much painting. We also restored the mural across the park, which had been painted at the same time by Seren Moran. She was out of the state, so we also undertook the restoration of her mural with her permission. Maybe we could show the next slide. So you can see this was bad, and it was addressed, and now we'll have to do it again because water continues to seep. So it is costly to a city to keep paying for restorations. And it underscores the importance of having artists involved from the very beginning in the building of structures that will support a mural. Okay, this is, yeah, the whole mural soon after it was completed. Maybe we can see the next slide. So I don't wanna I want to spend some more time on this project, though, which is why we're here now. This is actually a big project composed of two murals that John Worley painted. John Worley, a local artist of Richmond, a very well-loved artist, by the way, who has many works throughout the East Bay and the states of Washington and Oregon, mostly in the West. So he painted these two murals in 1989 and 1995. These were some of the first murals that were commissioned by the Richmond Arts and Culture Commission, which was fairly new at the time. And they were funded by money from the city as well as some private businesses. Originally, it was going to be a smaller mural, but apparently the measurements were taken incorrectly, and John was notified that the freeway would be enlarged later. So he had to alter his design to fit a much larger painting space. Instead of 75 feet long, the mural ended up being 160 feet long. So that was a setback. We could see some of the next slides. This is the mural today, and if you look carefully, you'll see that he had to superimpose a structure of columns over the mural he had already painted to enlarge the space and make it look coherent. I think he did a great job. Next slide, please. And here's how it looks today. And I want to talk a little bit about the damage that was done. There is by water. Mostly the damage you see there is water and a lot of tagging. We can see the other slides because I think there's a few of them, and advance to the next one. This is actually past perfect is one of the two is the least damage. We could see the next slide. This is a close-up of past perfect, and you can see some of the tagging. Next slide. And next slide. And the next one. So that one doesn't look as bad as Revisionist History, which is the next mural we will look at. This is the original design, and now we can look at how it looks today. So today, this mural has been heavily tagged and has several areas where there's a stream of water going down the mural. So that has caused mold to grow, discoloration, and peeling. We can see the next slide. And so Caltrans has assigned money for the restoration of these two murals. It is a Caltrans budget, so we have not yet signed a contract, but the plan is to basically repaint the entire mural because it's either discolorated or it's been tagged or there's a lot of water damage. Next slide, please. You can see this is a photo from yesterday, how extensive that is. Next slide, please. So John is working with a team composed of Gerard Gutierrez and me, and we are not only going to help with the restoration, use the colors he recommends. He is the sole contractor, but will act as our consultant in helping us with the palette and also with some innovations we'll make to these murals to update them because they're, after all, from the 1990s, and John feels that they could use a little updating. I also want to mention that some of the impetus for the restoration of the mural falls on the public because there was a mini campaign of neighbors that got on Nextdoor and said they would like to see this mural restored, and the city responded with offering to oversee the project. So it is a Caltrans project overseen by the city of Richmond, and they, of course, hired John as the sole contractor, who then put a team together. And in turn, Gerard and I will be working with several other local artists to do a restoration of this mural, of these two murals, actually. Across the street from these murals, there are two empty walls, and it is part of the project to paint two brand new murals there that perhaps can have a visual conversation with John's old murals that will by then be restored. I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to say that if you have any questions, we can address them at the end, and that you can send them via chat. Oh, and I forgot to mention Soot, but you can see that there. All right. I don't want to take Richard's time, so I think it's time to have him talk. And we are in the same studio, so we're moving furniture around.
Awesome. Thank you, Rebecca. Appreciate it. All right, here we go. Hello, everyone. My name is Richard Mural Salazar. Pleasure to meet you. I'm a muralist and fabricator. I've been in the Bay Area my entire life. I was born in San Francisco and pretty much raised in Richmond. Been focusing a lot of my work here in the city of Richmond. With my presentation today, I'm going to walk you guys how I kind of got into murals and then eventually into restoration and yeah, and so some of these pictures that you guys see right now on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side is the sculpture, the redwood sculpture. That's also located on the Richmond Greenway. The center picture is at the Oakland Zoo. That's a pelican for the kids. That's something that we and my buddies at Scientific Art Studio created. On the far left-hand side is John, and I'm going to be talking about a little bit about the ferry mural restoration. And yeah, awesome. So I started my adventure doing a lot of illegal graffiti. I did a good about 15 years of damage. And that's kind of how I got into the arts, self-taught. I did 1 year at the Art Institute, and then I dropped out because my dad didn't want to sign my student loan. So I just went all out with graffiti. I did so well that I eventually got sponsored by this paint company in Mexico City called 360 Spray Paint. And I worked with them for several years in my teens, pretty much traveling through Mexico, creating neighborhood community murals in Mexico City, and Zacatecas, and Chihuahua, and Oaxaca. Yeah, and then that's a picture of me. A little bit too much makeup. All righty, next. That's I'm actually kind of wanted to get away from the letters and start creating much more interesting designs that can benefit the community, and something besides letters was just animals I'm really attracted to. So this is just some examples of my practicing photorealism and trying to like really perfect the spray can to to the next level. So yeah, next. Matt, you got into community murals here in Richmond. We started doing, created this kind of system, this paint by number system, which really allows everybody in the community to participate in the murals. Anybody from nobody, they don't have to have a skill level to paint, as long as they follow the paint by number system. It's very easy. Anybody from all ages can participate, and it's really fun. This is just a quick mural that we're actually working on, me and John, right now, the Parkchester Village mural. And this is just some community members participating. Um, the community members will grab a color, and pretty much just like a coloring book, we'll just go up to the wall and start filling it in. Yeah, had some great results with that. Next. This is just some example works from my public art internship. I'm currently teaching public art. Our goal for public art at Epicenter in East Palo Alto is our goal is to bring in much more youth into public art and really getting them involved at an early age, to really get build up their portfolio, to really be able to get some of these bigger contracts and bigger projects under their belts. So these students are high school students. The one to the left is a 16-year-old Melina. She created this structure for a national park where she wants to create tree houses to be able to help endangered species like birds or flora and fauna to be able to interact with the sculpture. The bottom right is a garden bed that is also filled with flora, local flora, to really have a feeding bed for hummingbirds and bees. The top one is electrical box that one of the students, she really loves driving all around through all the different cities and seeing how each city has their own electrical boxes kind of painted. So that really motivated her to create her own. So yeah, public art class is really awesome. We really want to get a lot of a youth into public arts and see teach them the ways to so they can then themselves can get their own grants, from grant writing to skill models to actually executing the project. So yep, next. And this is the current mural that we're currently working on. This is a Parkchester Village mural. This is just a community meeting that we had, John and myself. And then we're just kind of showcasing our sketches that we have for the wall. And I'll be showing a little bit more on that, hopefully on the next event or something. So where I kind of started was at Pogo Park. It's a nonprofit organization here in Richmond. And that led to me working with Scientific Art Studio, which also led to me working at Last Ones Collective. Next. This is Pogo Park. It's a nonprofit organization here in Richmond. And the mission for Pogo Park is to get a local parks and transform them into local community hubs where local residents can actually work at the park and create a community center and be able to live off the community park. And so you don't have to, commute or travel far. You can literally work at your park where you're at. So that was our mission at Pogo Park with the Greenway project. I was the project manager for the Harbor A Park, which is right here. And my career literally started from this mural that you see in the center picture. There's a red tree frog right up there, and that's how Tootie, which is literally standing right there with the hat, that's how she found me, and that's how everything started for me at public art and installing sculptures and stuff like that. So it was a huge opportunity, and from there I just started building and creating a bunch of cool stuff with Pogo Park. To the left is the spider web. So this is a structure that me and some of the kids actually built. We built this. Everything that you see here is built by hand. It took us a while, but we got it done and helped with a contractor that also came in to help us grade and get the land ready. So on all the way to the right-hand side is the final, which we put up the fence. Everything's custom cut. We did like a little wave. We built a little gazebo with natural logs. We also created a sandbox with natural rock. And Tootie used to call it the Cadillac of sands. So if you see inside the little sandbox, it's actually really fine sand that we had to get it shipped from I don't know where. But you can build really cool stuff with once you mix water with. So everything's organic, and that's what we wanted for this park, for the kids to be able to play with organic material and not so much plastic. Next. This is a bird's eye view of the park. As you can see, we have the community garden to the right. We had community members from that lived around the neighborhood actually adopt a bed, and they would come and they would plant whatever they wanted into the bed, and all they were being charged with was to keep up with it and to share some of their harvest with the rest of the community. So and if you can see the playground to the left-hand side, and me and my friend Desi Mundo, which is the executive director of CRP in Oakland. We created the murals in the background, which extend from literally almost like 4 blocks. It's a ginormous, it's a grand mural. Yep, Arboree Park. Next, and this is a little news clip from Richmond Standard. It just highlights what the community and what we all did to really create this park, like literally from our hands and recycled material that we got and collaboration with the city of Richmond and Scientific Art Studio. We were able to create this park, and that's us on the right-hand side. We're installing the swings. So once we open the park to the public, we just got this flood of kids. So as you can see them, they're rushing the spider web, and it was really awesome news clip. Cool. Next. This is the new and improved Harbor A Park. So unfortunately, the old park that I built as project manager is no longer there. But the good news is that we're constantly, well, I'm no longer with Pogo Park, but it's constantly being evolved to the next stage and to the next stage. So this is a drawing, it was created by Scientific Art Studios. And this highlights the new version of the Harbor A Park. And it's pretty much extending all the way to the other block. So now it's 2 blocks versus the 1 block that we originally built it. So it's really meant to create small businesses, be able to create a community center, a water park, a soccer play area, a big sand pit, and a much greater park. So we can have a greater economic impact for the local community. So once again, Pogo Park, the goal is to really create jobs within the community, so we don't have those community members, commute out, travel out. So yeah, so it's currently, if you guys want to stop by Harbor 8, it's currently in construction, and it's going to look just like this. So yeah, next. This is the Elm Play Lot, and the reason I put these in the presentation today is because me and the kids, we created a barbecue pit. So we grabbed this metal and we decided to create these 2 barbecues for the Elm Play Lot. And if you can see in the back of the photo, there's a lot of stuff that we also created for Elm Play Lot. But by us creating these 2 barbecue pits, it also created new jobs for the park and it required us to bring more people in now to maintain the grills, to organize them when people want to check them out, and really to maintain it, right? To a lot of metal does rust, so when people use it and there's wear and tear, so maintenance is key. So to a lot of the stuff that we build that is custom made. So anything that you make custom, there's no manual book to anything. So maintenance is absolutely key to really keeping up to a lot of this custom fabricated material. So every time we wanted to build something, it always excited us because we knew that we were going to need a maintenance crew right after that to be able to take care of what we're building because because again, there's no manual book to how to take care of this stuff. So yeah, it's always exciting. So next. And it's just more pictures of the other side. We built the barbecues ourselves. We also built the concrete slabs ourselves. The metal little shelves and little metal bar was also welded and installed by our team at Pogo Park. Next. Awesome. And that leads me working with Pogo Park. I ended up getting an internship at Scientific Art Studio. I've been working on and off with Scientific Art Studio in Pogo Park for the last 15, 18 years. I work with Ron Holvenhuizen. He's an international artist from Holland, an absolute amazing man and an amazing portfolio. And I've helped them work together in projects with the San Francisco Giants, the San Francisco Zoo, the Oakland Zoo, the Jewish Community Center in East Palo Alto. Also worked on the Discovery Museum over here in Sausalito, and a bunch more. Over here, the picture to your right is Ron in the back. He's sculpting out a baby wolf, and myself, I'm layering in some clear coat to cover the python that we were going to be installing at the San Francisco Zoo later that week. So, and then to the left-hand side, it's Ron, and that's a recent picture of the celebration of the Rotary Play Garden project, which is one of the first parks in the state of California that tailors to disabled kids. And I have a little bit more pictures on that. Next. This is part of the Rotary Play Garden. This is a mural that Scientific Art Studios and myself installed. So this mural has actually been restored about twice. And it's just because of well, using the wrong type of paints and really mixing and really experimenting on what's going to last on the mural. So the first few tries were a bit of a fail, but this is, I think, the third time that we went back and actually redid the waves and actually cleaned up. If you see on the sides of the walls, there's concrete animals, which we also installed. They were also sculpted by Ron, really beautiful pieces. So it just goes to show when a lot of custom fabrication happens, it just requires that much more maintenance because once again, there's no manual book to really how to take care and upkeep some of this stuff. So I'm kind of just play it by ear. Next. Just more pictures from the left to the right. To the left is my coworker, ex-coworker Spencer, and that just kind of gives a little bit of scale of just how tall we have to go and wide. Next. And a lot of the restoration we also did at the Lodi Railroad Museum. We installed, if you see to the left is the carriage, and we're actually speaking to the director of the Lodi Railroad Museum. And we installed the signage in front of the carriage right there. We did a lot of plaques and installed signs for the viewers to read the information. And if you on the right hand side, we installed the panel, and this panel was pretty big. But if you look really closely, it's made up by all a bunch of tiny little pictures that make up this enormous image. So yeah, next. Cool. And this is some of my work from Last One's Collective, just some woodwork, and then the mural in the center is from my family. And this is a mural that we did in collaboration with the city of Oakland and J. Curie, the organization in Oakland as well. And this was a wall that's facing a community garden, and the wall needed some repairs, and we wanted to be able to create something beautiful for the garden. So it really blesses the area, and it creates a much better, vibrant um, community right there, and also the space, right, the ambiance. So it was really exciting. Next. The most memorable project that I did with Last Ones Collective was at the Hacienda Heights. This was in 2022. If anybody's familiar with this project, it's a senior housing that was pretty much abandoned, or not abandoned, but it was restored. So it's a huge restoration project. There was all the housing that was kind of abandoned for about a year or two, and it eventually got remade. And this project has got 2 awards for the greatest renovation project of 2023. It also got another award by the Golden Nug for just for the design. And if you can see closely, we actually created the mural sculpture that's hanging right in front of the building. Next. So this is some of the designs that this is the design that we created for the mural sculpture project. And to the right is actually how big we wanted to do it. We wanted to take over the whole wall, but we didn't have enough funding to go that big, so we had to go home. No, so we ended up going on to the our design, which we had to shrink down to kind of cut down the cost and be able to manage to have the contractor still be able to install it. Next. So this is the before and after. So if you look to your left-hand side is the before, the building when it was abandoned and pretty much just kind of tore down. It had tons of graffiti on the side. You can see it's all kind of buffed out, but that's how the place really looked for a few years. And to the right-hand side is the new and renovated senior housing, and you can see the landscape, everything was done, and our sculpture is hanging right there. And you can't really see too much on the daytime, but at night and during sunset during sunrise and sunset is where you get all the shadows and actually brings the image to light. So it looks really beautiful. Next. Here's just a close-up. As you can see, the mural and how it got installed. Once again, this sculpture is really meant to be seen during sunrise and sunset. It really you can really see the shadows once you kind of catch those really right times. And the right side is just a zoomed out view. Next. And RM Salazar is myself. Just kind of going solo on by myself, and not just kind of some of my own personal work. The left-hand side is a sculpture that I did for the city of Richmond. It's called the Mass Joy. It was a redwood sculpture a redwood log that got cut down because the owner couldn't get his satellite signal, so he cut this 80-year-old redwood tree down to so he can watch his TV. So I bought the log from him, and I wanted to at least give it a second life and restore it to something, and to give it a second chance at standing tall. So I created this sculpture in remembrance of him, and almost kind of like little like signals kind of beaming out from the main trunk. So the right-hand side is just from the recent show that I had with ArtCC, and it's pretty much me finding a lot of wood and trying to restore it and using recycled wood that's been illegally dumped. I live in Parkchester Village, so we get a lot of illegal dumping, a lot of construction dumping. So it's really trying to find a way to try to grab this medium and find a second way to give it life. So I cut up all these pieces and made this vinyl piece called Pathia, which means healing and Nahuatl. This piece is now going to be hanging at the new Martinez Civic Center, I believe, or yeah, in Martinez. Next. And this is the Ferry Point project. This is by far a huge highlight of my career. Working next to John Worley it's always amazing. Such a funny guy. And that's him and myself and my daughter down there. And yeah, next. So this is the before picture. This is how the mural was looking. Once again, this mural was originally painted in 1996. I was 10 years old when John originally painted this mural. I actually remember him painting it when I was a kid. My dad used to take me to the park across the tunnel to go play baseball. And so I vividly remember this mural not being there, and then now all of a sudden being there after a few times not going to the park. But so this is what it looked like. This mural has already been restored 15 years prior. It was done by Gerard and John. And so this is 15 years later, which is pretty much last year. And so me and John, we just decided to tackle this together. So that's what it looks like. And if you look at the edge of the wall, all those bushes were actually hanging over the wall. So if you look to the left-hand side, all that dirt was just from the dirt that was hanging off from the plant. So everything got trimmed down. The city of Richmond came and cut up all the poison ivy and plants and made it happen. So that's the bare wall. Next. There's some clips. So we had to shut down a lane to be able to work on the project. Took us a while to get the permit, but we got it. The city of Richmond helped us out a lot. That's me and John, and we're power washing the mural, getting all the dirt and whatever anything else that's stuck on the wall pretty much off. So it was a pretty awesome day. Next. Here's a close-up, me and John, and we're working on the ferry letters. We were pretty high up. It always feels a little bit sketchy once once you're two up there and you're kind of moving, separately. So it becomes fun. It becomes very shaky and fun. Next. Here we go. And then on the left-hand side is John adding the final touches to the pelican. John is well known out here in Richmond. He loves painting pelicans, and if you see one of his murals, there's always a pelican somewhere in there, and that's the John spirit animal. Every time I see a pelican, I think of John, and that's us celebrating the mural unveiling. The city of Richmond, Winifred, director of the Arts and Culture Department, and Point Richmond Neighborhood Council. Next. And that's the finish. And that took us about roughly 4 to 5 days. Yeah, it was amazing to work with John and really extending this mural to another 15 years. And we got so much great feedback from this mural, and people were so happy that it got retouched and really that full restoration, and people really want to see it really last for the next generation. So next. Awesome. And that's it. And my contact info. But yeah, I look forward to answering some questions. And yeah, we'll share the screen, me and Rebecca.
We'll share the
We'll share the
screen.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Richard and Rebecca. That was great. And I know that we have some questions here. I don't know. Hopefully we get to most of them. But let's see. But I will say before we start with the questions that I think Erica mentioned before that Erica and I are working on organizing a seminar to actually really kind of be more of a toolkit for mural preservation. So that so that's something for all of the attendees to look out for on the horizon. And with that, let's go into some of these questions. First question I saw was and so this is for either of you. Does the city, I'm assuming Richmond, set aside funding for these murals to be restored and preserved? If so, does this require an application process, or does the city choose which murals to care for based on neighborhood? And that was a question I also had, because you had mentioned that there was conversation on Nextdoor, and which kind of helped the city to kind of project manage that preservation of that, or the restoration of that mural. So yeah, so if either of you.
We've had different experiences, so we each will address that.
Yeah, personally, since the graffiti ordinance here in Richmond, the city of Richmond has been more active in really taking care of the murals that we see, even if it looks like graffiti. The city does have a two-color ordinance where if anything has more than two colors, that the graffiti crew can buff it. So that's one way to prevent new murals or any work that is new that looks graffiti-ish not to get buffed. So that's one route. As far as the money, I do see a much more um, interest to really preserve what the current murals are. And a lot of people are seeing that a lot of them are getting vandalized. So it's this urgent need now to really save them while we still kind of can and before they gets even worse. We do see a lot of murals all over the Bay Area that once you kind of see one tag, it just kind of the whole bottom just kind of goes and you kind of lose that originality of the mural. So once you kind of lose that bottom, so I think I do see a huge push of really finding more money, more of the neighborhood councils pushing for restorations for murals in their neighborhood. So
There is a process. Typically, you go to the art commission first and you write a proposal. If you're the artist or if there's neighbors that are concerned, they can go before the art commission, explain their case. If it's the artist, usually that's a proposal because it does contain some recommendations on how to take care of the problem. I saw that there's a question about locating objects in the mural farther up. Yes, that's one way to address it, but it doesn't always work depending on the purpose of the mural, the public that will see it. In the underpass, for example, if you put things too high up, then they will become invisible. And then the Arts Commission normally sends out a call for artists and tries to work with the original artist whenever possible and follow their recommendations. I just wanted to add that because I feel that the question also asked about the process. And yes, there is a well-established process.
Okay. Great, thanks. A question that came through and written on the chat was, this is from Chris Morris. What advice can you both give to preservation organizations and nonprofits that are not arts organizations, but are interested in working with and supporting local artists to create artwork or murals with students and community members that celebrates their history and cultural heritage?
I can say a little bit, and I'll be short so that Richard has time as well. I would recommend going to the local nonprofits. For example, everybody's familiar with Presida Eyes in San Francisco. It's a central place to which you can go for information on artists who are doing good work, the good public artwork, and they can not just let you know about what artists to work with, but also they can make recommendations for a good budget and a number of things. But there's the Bay Area Mural Festival here in the East Bay, and every region has 1, 2, 3 organizations that can give you some guidance. I think that really is so much better than going to individual websites and trying to field individual artists yourself.
My personal experience, sometimes with funding, it can be a lot of red tape. There can be a lot of paperwork and a lot of waiting around. What we've done in the past, if we actually reached out to local businesses that are around the mural and see if they want to work and collaborate with us. We've done 2 murals where a very minimal funding actually came from the city, and we had a lot of the paint donated by Kelly Moore. We had a boom lift donated by Sunbelt Rentals. We had food, beverages, sanitary equipment donated by the local. We had a dollar store that we went to, and they provided hand sanitizer and all that stuff. We had food, local restaurants that actually provided snacks and for volunteers for those days. So, and for the labor, and as far as that, some of the funding did come from the city. So there's definitely other ways around it. The neighborhood city council would be my greatest approach. If you get them involved right away, usually the process just goes much faster because the neighborhood council is much interested in really renovating their neighborhood and really uplifting it. So it goes much faster. My personal opinion.
Great. Thanks. I did want to address the second part of Michael Milton's question. I think, Rebecca, you had mentioned, the location and the height, but I think the second part was with murals on brick. Do you use different paints given concerns about the need of brick to have air exposure to maintain structural integrity?
Well, I will address that again in a short way, and then I'll turn it over to Richard. The mural, for example, under the underpass, which was a very irregular wall made of rough cement layer that was about 1 inch thick, was done with silicone paint. And that paint is very durable. It's a wonderful material that I think could also be used on brick. Also, preparation of the surface really goes a long way to addressing some of those factors that he mentioned. However, nothing is forever. So I would recommend to do a good study of the conditions to which the wall will be submitted. For example, is it exposed? How much sunlight is it receiving? And I'm sure that the question asker is aware of that. But we do that as well, especially if you are a very experienced artist, such as Richard.
Yeah, my biggest experience with painting on a mineral surface, it's really not to seal it. That's how you really keep the wall behind it, or brick, or stucco, whatever the case may be. That's how you really keep it breathing. Silica paint, as Rebecca mentioned, it's a really heavy duty paint. It's wonderful. It lays on really beautifully, but it's somewhat porous where it does breathe, let the wall breathe. Once again, the key is not to seal it, not to put a sealer, graffiti sealer, UV sealer, none of that. It's what's really going to damage the mural and the wall in the long term.
So you wouldn't recommend using acrylic paint on a brick?
No, they make mineral paint, feel like silica, or mineral surface paint specialized for concrete or very porous walls. For the Ferry Point mural, we had a lot of moisture issues where we had a lot of the water from the back coming through the wall and through the mural. So by just removing all the moisture, air drying it, and just applying a new coat of paint and not sealing it.
Colloquially known as playground paint, can you be also used on the ground? We used it at Kennedy Park, very easy to work with.
Thanks. And we have some more questions, and I think there are two questions here. One is about saving murals that when the property has changed hands. This is Suzanne Guerra. She asked, murals may be lost when property changes hands. So how could this be addressed, or what has been your experience with that?
I'll go first. So my experience, so I've actually had a recent experience with this. So the previous owner has signed a 5-year contract allowing the mural to be there, and if anything, the mural got damaged, they would contact the artist first before it got taken down or got repaired. So to our luck, the new owner did respect and validate that contract, and it was transferred over to the new owner. I think it was only like about a year or two left on that contract. So with that situation, it really helped that they really accepted the mural and wanted to continue having it and being a part of it. But I also have friends that have gone through legal battles and gone through the legal court system to actually try to get reimbursed or see how if the mural got damaged or got removed to see how there can be some compensation as far as the material cost and stuff like that. But usually we always try to, if there's a mural, whoever wants to remove it always usually contacts the artist. And usually we try to work it out. And if you can't save it, you can save it. If you can't, you can. If it's in your power, it's in your power. And if it's not, it's kind of not. So unfortunately, that's kind of my experience, at least has been.
Yes, Richard has really addressed this question very well. I would recommend that the contract have a provision for when the property gets handed down within the same family. We had a bad experience with such changing of hands from the dad to the son. And once the son had it, he decided he didn't want the mural anymore and did not notify us before he painted it over.
A question from Tamara O'Kelly, and I'm really interested to hear what your take is on this as both as artists. How do you go about restoring a mural when the artist is no longer alive or is lost? So, and I would also want to know, like, how do you feel about other artists restoring your own murals?
Wow. So personally myself, John is still with us, so we're getting tons of it's pretty much a master class every time we're with him. So we get tons of great advice in how we did some of his techniques. I haven't worked on somebody that's passed away and try to restore their mural, but I'm pretty sure there's I would always reach out to the family next. If the artist is deceased, then my next goal is to reach out for, to whatever family member is taking care of or is in charge. Sometimes these murals do have copyrights. I do have copyrights on some of my murals, so I would reach out to whoever has the ownership of the copyright of the mural, or next to whoever's next in line to as far as contact.
I would also, there was something I wanted to add to what Richard said, which is I would study that style. There are firms that specialize in restoration, and also I lost what I was gonna say. Oh, I'm having one of those moments. It was important, but let's just go on to the next questions.
Okay. All right, and Suzanne Guerra has another question in that has anyone used preservation or conservation easements to preserve murals or other community art? So this goes into we're the California Preservation Foundation, and there are preservation tools that we have. But have you intersected with that, and have you used any preservation or conservation easements to help in preserving your murals or art?
Not me.
No, personally myself, I haven't. The only way that I just from other artists, other muralist advice to protect my work has been through the copyrights and trademark. That's pretty much how I figured out to try to protect my work. I did have a few issues before that did have to settle through court, but luckily through the copyright, my mural got protected. So it's really that I see more and more of my mural buddies kind of going down that route where they're making that investment of like, okay, like how can I really protect this for the longevity? If you think about it, some of these murals they're big investments. They're not small projects. Some of these murals can go from 10 to 50,000 to $1 million project. So we really want to make sure that they're there for the long term, to really create that multi-generational impact that we, us artists, really want each mural to do. So I think now I see really everybody going down that route where they're copyrighting the work and really trying to protect it for the long run.
In addition to what Richard said, it is great to work with a nonprofit that has sort of adopted that area and the mural itself. When that happens, I get notified when the mural gets tagged, and then they sometimes send a crew with me to assist me, which is wonderful. And someone is always watching.
And a couple of questions from Corey Dunlap, and that is, how do you evaluate whether a mural is capable of being restored or if it is beyond repair, and if deaccessioning should be considered? And then the other part of the other question that they had was, do you have suggestions for recycling murals created by communities in the 80s and 90s? So those are a pair of questions there. I think, yep.
Well, we are in that process right now with the past perfect and revisionist history murals. We are in a process of evaluating what is salvageable and what needs to be done over. In the Unity mural where I mentioned that the panels were placed incorrectly, it's often up to the commissioning entity to decide, is this mural worth continuing to be restored, or should we put something else in its place or something new, because it will be expensive.
Yes. Usually, well, each mural usually has about, 10 to 15 year lifespan, depending on the paint. So, also kind of going by the date it was created to where, where it's kind of at. Also, each year might have a different stage of vandalism, versus another year, or a mural that constantly gets hit or vandalized all the time, require much more work. And it really the dedication of the muralist, and see how much you really want to upkeep it. I've had murals that got vandalized every week, and then just kind of going back and like, okay, I'm not gonna get paid for this, but it's my mural, and I want to make sure that it stays nice for people. Another way to upcycle murals, I did have a project where the previous students created a panel mural. And so we actually needed to paint the mural behind those panels. And so instead of tearing down those panels and destroying them, which when I was taking them down, I was approached, but some of the people that actually had painted the murals when they were kids, and they were like, why are you taking it down? I've just been up here for 20 years. I'm like, oh, we're creating a new mural, but all this will be showcased at the Richmond Art Center, and there's going to be another separate show to really pay homage and respect to that mural and make sure that they're not left out from the mural scene. So yeah, that's one way.
Great. And so I believe that's all of the questions I saw. And everyone let me know if I missed a question. But yeah, and I think I know for me, and I'll talk on behalf of me and Erica, that I think a lot of the questions thank you for all the questions. And I think a lot of the questions that we've gotten will also help to inform what is in the seminar on mural preservation and the toolkit that we put together for later on this year. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And thank you all for attending. And
Yeah,
thank you to Richard and to Rebecca for what you do for your community and helping the community, and but also and B for presenting here today and answering these questions. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you both for being so generous with your time, especially going over about 15 minutes. It was really wonderful to get a lot of those questions answered. And thank you everyone for attending. On behalf of myself, our speakers, our education chairs, and the rest of our education committee, we hope you enjoyed the program. We encourage your feedback using the survey you'll be redirected to upon closing your Zoom window. We hope to see you again at one of our future programs. And thank you again to our wonderful speakers.